holidays and it's rainy today. So I think everyone's just kind of in a little cozy mode and not really thinking about going on a Zoom meeting in the evening.
Yeah, and the holidays are approaching, so
yeah. All right, well, we've got the live stream up and running, so go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:05 p.m. and I'll share my screen just so that you can see the agenda for now.
Okay.
So we currently don't have any members of the public in attendance, but we'll move right on to minutes, review and approve the minutes from our last meeting. Motion A, approve the GTLNC October 12th, 2021 Environmental Affairs Committee minutes. I would normally ask for a first at this time.
Yeah, I will be a first.
Great, thank you, Susanna. And I will second this. This is Catherine. I should have done attendance very quickly. Catherine is here. Susanna is here. Hannah is excused.
Yes. I could see from the previous minutes that Nick Baker was attending, and is he off the committee? Or?
He is stepping back from our committee for a little while. Hopefully sometime next year he'll be able to rejoin, but for now he's no longer on environmental.
Okay, I couldn't recall what was said. Apologize.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have any comments or questions on the minutes from our last meeting? I do have them.
Yeah, I mean, it's more to, mine is really 2.6, but maybe we should take it as, the letter.
So for right now, we're discussing motion A for the minutes. Do you have a comment on the minutes related to the letter from last time, or is this related to discussing the letter for tonight?
No, not from last time. It's more for tonight.
Okay, great. Well, as the one who wrote the minutes, I don't have issues with them. We'll go ahead and take a quick vote. Feel free to abstain if you want to. But I will vote yes on the minutes. How would you like to vote, Susanna?
Yeah, I will vote yes, of course.
Wonderful. Motion carries. Minutes are approved 2-0-0. We still do not have any members of the public here with us this evening. So we will move past public comment, committee member news and announcements. The only thing I was really going to announce was that Nick Baker, who'd previously been on the committee, is stepping away for a little while. And so, Susanna, unless you have any environmental committee related news and announcements.
No, I do not. I actually wanted to, I know Tess had sent an email on there was a meeting, but I couldn't make it. With the no, I'm sorry, I'm really having a brain freeze now. I'm having too many screens going.
It happens. Was it the planning committee meeting last night?
No, it was not the planning. It was she was very kind to send. Oh yeah, it was the CFAC policy meeting.
Oh yes.
Yes, I wanted to, because it was about the trees and whatnot, the bat policy and bat, but unfortunately I'm working on a project that I'm finalizing this week. So, yep.
Yeah, I am similarly dealing with a lot of stuff at work. So I've not been able to attend. I know NCSA, the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance, had something recently as well.
Yeah, so I will definitely try and pay more, get more involved in what happens in the city, but so far I just haven't been able to.
Awesome, great. Well then, shall we dive into our main agenda item tonight, which is discussion and possible action regarding letter of action requesting climate justice policies for Los Angeles. The draft letter was posted to the website, and I also have it available here.
I did print it, and also I also went up and found the original letters.
Great.
So just to get an idea of where it all came from.
Yeah, so I guess since this is technically a motion on the agenda, although EAC did previously technically pass the motion as environmental, not as GTLNC. And so I'll go ahead and read the motion. Motion B, to approve a letter of action requesting the City of LA implement specific policies as part of a just transition to 100% clean energy by 2035. And do I have a first to open discussion on this motion and the letter?
Yes, Susanna.
Thank you, Susanna. And I, Catherine, will second that to open discussion. So,
if I, again, so
go right ahead. I mean, it's just the two of us.
Just stepping a little bit back, is how many of the neighborhood councils have submitted this letter? Have they all done so?
It's certainly not all of them,
No.
And I can quickly look up how many have it attached to the council file.
Yeah. Oh, or maybe I could have seen. It was just more of curiosity if it was like a common, because I could see some of those who were running for councils were supporting the letter back then in, when was it, in June, I saw the letters being composed and supporting all these groups supporting the letter.
Yeah, so I believe that of neighborhood councils attached to the council file itself, only Greater Cypress Park Neighborhood Council actually submitted a CIS, a community impact statement, and they did submit more or less this exact letter.
Yeah. Okay.
However, I don't know whether other neighborhood councils have submitted it as a letter of action, as we were proposing to do, which is not necessarily attaching it to the council file as a CIS, a community impact statement, but simply a request sent directly to them.
Yeah, because what was interesting to me, and it also came back to, I was wondering, the community being involved in these environmental affairs committee meetings, because if it had been a request from the community that we should move forward with a letter of this type. Because
so this is brought to us by a group called Food and Water Watch. And so they're one of the various environmental groups in the area that are trying to promote not just renewable energy, but specifically sustainable climate justice solutions.
Yeah.
And so they brought it to us. We discussed it at 2 of our environmental meetings and then brought it to the general board. As you noted, we don't have a ton of people attending environmental affairs in the community, which doesn't mean that we're not still going to be here doing the job, but it does mean that if the committee isn't paying attention, if the community isn't paying attention to what we put on our agendas, then they don't have the opportunity to come and say, yeah, we really like this idea, or no, we don't really like this idea, until it gets to the general board meeting. And at that time, I think a lot of people are sort of like, well, we didn't know about it. And that is a ongoing problem that, and I don't think it's hardly exclusive to GTLNC. I think all neighborhood councils struggle with figuring out how to do effective outreach, to make sure people know what is being discussed at each meeting.
No, I can definitely see the issue. Absolutely. No, it was just because when I read the letter, it's sort of, but again, I can also see where it comes from, because it just had some, little bit of, I don't know if maybe a hard word, inflammatory language, but sometimes it's like evidence, because it's, in the first paragraph, no, it's second paragraph, it says, avoiding these false solutions along with, am I right? Will ensure an end to an energy system which benefits those at the top at the expense of our health and safety. And I think those at the top, I think we probably should put in, because that can be, I was like, who do you mean? But it's those at the top of the fossil fuel industry. Because
so it actually is more expansive than that. It is obviously those at the top of the fossil fuel industry, the ones that are directly, profiting off of these. But it is also true that those sorts of facilities, methane, coal, nuclear facilities, and some other more polluting agricultural practices and waste processing practices, they more negatively impact lower income communities that tend to be communities of color on average. And so it does mean that those that benefit at the top includes people who are middle and upper income, and living in neighborhoods, in fact, like ours, that are frankly very well insulated from a lot of those issues. And having any of those facilities built in our area. So we do benefit, and it is at the expense of the health and safety of some other communities within our own city.
Okay. All right. It was just because it was at the top. So I thought in terms, since it was the methane, coal, and nuclear facilities, I thought, but you are right. We are, especially our neighborhood, at the top, because, for example, with solar panels, and exactly as was communicated, the whole issue from LA Times of yesterday, and we are the ones who can afford potentially to put solar panels and batteries on the roofs and in our yards, but not the people living in apartments or in poor areas.
Yeah. And in fact, some of it is also about not even just what you can afford, but what you are allowed to do. People living in an apartment don't have control over necessarily how their building gets their energy. And some of them maybe live in an area with enough middle income people that they feel comfortable going and pressuring a landlord or a building management company. But a lot of people would feel that their housing would become uncertain if they were a troublesome tenant asking for things like that. Yeah.
All right. Okay. I can see what you mean there. It was just because I sort of felt that if it was more the industry, because you do come down in later on, that it is the rate people in the communities that could be in apartments and so on, maybe. But anyway, I'm
open to changing the language. This was draft language that was offered to us. But That is my interpretation of what they meant. It can be
all
a broad
right,
definition. Good to be at the top.
that's good. You're probably you are a better writer than I am. English is not my first language, so that's another issue I have sometimes.
But sometimes that means you see the problems with the way we've written things that us native speakers would just be like, oh yeah, it makes total sense. It's like, well, actually it doesn't really.
So if we go under the what I was saying, where you have the bullet points, the very first bullet point, an investment in leadership from frontline communities, would it be an idea to put in the CMO, such as CMO? You have an investment in leadership frontline communities, grassroots organizations, and other community-based stakeholders, such as CMO, and maybe explain who they are. This recently established Climate Emergency Mobilization Office, because that one definitely represents all these grassroots organizations, which are the main signers of this paper anyway.
Yeah, I mean, oops.
I know I'm making the letter longer now.
No, I think honestly, specificity is great. If we have specific ideas, we should say, hey, leverage the Climate Emergency Mobilization Office that the city of Los Angeles has developed. So yeah, I would be happy to add that.
It just it kind of also shows, I mean, of course, this is to the city and they know, but it's also more for stakeholders in our community, so they see that there are an organization, an office that's do work in this area. So it's not just a conglomerate of grassroots organizations going in each their 360-degree directions.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Let's go ahead and add to that bullet an investment in leadership from frontline communities, grassroots organizations, other community-based stakeholders, including the City of Los Angeles Climate Emergency Mobilization Office, CMO, in guiding LADWP's implementation, outreach, and engagement efforts. I think that sounds great. Go ahead and add that in. All right. Did you have more comments on the other bullets? I know that.
Yeah, I have one. I know you're running out of space now because.
No, the letter doesn't have to stay one page. I can change some margins. Don't worry about how long it gets.
Yeah, no, because I thought, and this is actually completely taking it from the original letter, is the last bullet point, the one that says local hiring guarantees pay parity. Because I must admit, when we had I'm backtracking now, when we had our committee meeting,
general meeting,
I
know some people were concerned about this particular bullet.
I was concerned. I couldn't figure out why this was in it at all, and then because it felt like, okay, are we now, what are we going into? But I think if we put in, so local hiring guarantees pay parity, project labor agreements, and other union protections for creating high road jobs in the clean energy economy, and then it comes from this other letter, forming the foundation for the thousands of jobs oh, I'm missing something. I didn't copy it right. But the initiatives in energy efficiency and other, I can't see what I wrote. I have to find the
no worries.
Because I just thought that, here it is, forming the foundation for the thousands of jobs that in initiatives and actually in energy efficiency and other forms of building modernization will offer. I just thought, because otherwise it sounds like we're in a union. Just without, why is this mentioned? Because yes, there is thousands of jobs that can be created in this clean energy area.
Yeah, I mean, I know that at least part of the reason the local hiring guarantees as opposed to bringing in workers from elsewhere, including union protections and labor agreements, and protecting pensions and offering retraining. A lot of that is born out of this idea that we do want to support organized labor and labor that has adequate protections for the workers as part of the climate justice piece. So, I understand that support for unions is become very political lately. And so I understand if there are concerns about being specific about that in this letter. Personally,
No,
I would like to support collective bargaining and organized labor, but I guess I understand if we want to be careful in our wording of that.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with the putting in the unions. It's just more, it sort of sits alone. And I think what people don't realize is supporting these things, but also what it means at the end, what the end result is that there is this foundation for thousands of new jobs.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So making sure that it's not just about what we're asking for, but also what this will offer to the community.
Yeah.
All right. I like that. I think we can go ahead and add in that language. Do you happen to have a copy of that you can email me just so I make sure that I
get
it all right?
Yeah, I'll get it to you. Because otherwise I was sort of very negative on that last one. I'm like, nah, but what is this? And but then, I kind of read it in there, and I can, yes, you can have a political opinion, right, left, or center on this, but I think we should support everything, but also that, and people should be aware and informed about that this is a huge job area.
Yeah. I mean, it is probably going to be one of the fastest growing sectors, especially as the current federal administration rolls out their plans, because they're going to be putting a lot of money in this area. And it'd be great if LA could not only take advantage of that, but really be a leader in that.
Yeah.
I will ask, and we do not have to make this decision this evening. It will probably be a discussion point at the general meeting, either way. But one thing that was brought up was this idea of being uncomfortable with asking for them to protect pensions. Which, as someone who is supportive of the idea of pensions, I believe it's important to protect them, but I also have seen it implemented in ineffective ways, like with the post office, where they had to, fully fund pensions for, I think it was 75 years, which means that they look like they're running at a massive deficit, even though they are actually profitable, quote unquote. They're not for profit, obviously, it's the post office, but it's something that has really hamstrung them. And so I can understand both from the perspective of people who simply don't feel that we should be forcing protection of pensions, but also from the perspective of people that know that these pension protection programs can be implemented in ways that actually harm workers. If there is a better way to phrase that, or if it's something that, or not necessarily phrase, but to approach that request in order to make sure that it does not put the city of LA in a position where they're at a loss because of what they've sort of, the corner they've painted themselves into. Because
it is a huge drain on the city but I'm a proponent for pension, so.
Yeah, I mean,
but again, it's
I
also
feel like, go ahead.
yeah, no, I was gonna say, some regulations weren't well thought through in some cases, and others, they're a little smarter now. So, but again, it goes both ways.
Maybe use a phrase more like develop a sustainable, or well, sustainable is probably an overused word.
Yeah.
But develop an effective
an adequate
plan for transitioning pensions.
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah. Develop an effective plan for preserving and transitioning pensions so that, we're not saying every job has to have a certain kind of pension or everything needs to be funded, but you develop an effective plan for managing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that sounds good.
All right.
All right. That's kind of it for me. It was just a couple of things, but I learned a little bit today because I was like, because I couldn't remember what you had said previously, whether, because it was like, are we the only ones sending this letter? But I kind of recalled you said not, but so I'm glad.
Yeah, and I can talk to Food and Water Watch and see if they have a list of any other groups that have passed it and have actually submitted a letter. And I will make sure that I ask that before the next general meeting, so that if that does come up, or if there were other groups that maybe had a different approach, I can check and see what their language was in case we would prefer to use that in some cases.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for working on the letter. Shall we go ahead and vote on it as amended?
Yes.
Motion B, approving the letter of action requesting the City of LA implement specific policies as part of a just transition to 100% clean energy by 2035, as amended. How do you vote, Susanna?
Yes.
Catherine, I'm a yes as well. Motion carries 2-0-0. And of course, that now means that it will go to the general board meeting in January to be discussed and potentially voted on by the full board before this actually is a letter that gets sent to anyone. All right, so that brings us to new business, which is just sort of looking ahead to the next year and figuring out what our goals are going to be. If there are any city council actions that we're interested in, if we want to get more involved in collective groups like Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance or CFAC, which it is the Community Forest Advisory Committee, I believe, is CFAC stands for. Yes.
Yeah. Actually, I would have liked to participate in the meeting and maybe also sort of to learn a little bit more about it. So I will definitely keep an eye out for upcoming meetings.
Yeah. And maybe that's something we can start promoting.
Yeah.
Just as the environmental committee makes sure that in the newsletter, we're promoting these sorts of, because everything's on Zoom these days, anyone can attend these, and just making sure everybody knows that there are groups in the community that are working on this, in addition to what GTLNC is doing on a more local or small level. Is there anything in particular you want to work on? I know that we've previously done a cleanup pre-pandemic days with the garden club and got a couple trees planted during that.
Yeah, I should check because now the Toluca Lake what is they called? Chamber of Commerce. Oh God. They have a cleanup every last Saturday of the month. So all of us sort of from the various groups participates in the cleanups. And I could also and then we also have, the beautification group, and Robin Allen, and we have a sort of a local, we check on trees and stuff. Yeah. So I'm kind of part of that too, but we can definitely, that would be something I think but we probably should get together with the other groups since they are doing it together.
Yeah, I don't think that we need to necessarily go out of our way to create events when we can just be supportive of other community groups and promote and participate in their events. And, all of these, it's kind of about getting bodies there to help out. So if we can help do that, all the better.
I mean, it's also a cleanup and not just plants, of course, but we keep an eye out for dead trees, trees starting to lose branches and stuff, and all that.
And cleanups are good for the environment as well, because all that loose trash that gets washed down to the rivers and oceans, that's not that landfills are bastions of environmental sustainability, but it is better for it to go there than to go fill up our rivers and our oceans and lakes.
But I think also, let me when I get past this darn project, think of if there's more we could do, because this is mainly Toluca Lake, but then there's also NoHo activity.
Yeah, and one thing that I want to do is follow up. Earlier this year, I believe it was either May or June, we had funded a drought tolerant planting on the Vineland median. I think it's between the 101 and Moore Park section. And so I want to follow up with the beautification partners to see what the status is on that. I know that they did come and remove the 2 trees that were beyond resurrection, that were dropping branches on cars. So those came down, but I would like to follow up and see if we can get an update on where that project stands. I believe last time they gave us an update a couple months ago at a general meeting, it was sort of stuck in permit jail of just, you get sort of stuck there for a while with the city.
Yes, I know. I mean, we have the infamous clock.
The clock that is and will never be.
Yeah, actually it is making progress. What was it, Ryan Eltoon? He said recently, he had a conversation and it was moving forward, but at what, I mean, I guess there's one guy sitting there. I mean, anyway, so yes, I will, I missed the last meeting of the beautification partners, but definitely I can also look into it and see what's happening, because I do recall that it's going to be planted with drought resistant plants.
Yes, wonderful. I like having an inside line on that.
So, yeah. Yep.
Great.
Otherwise, I don't have anything else to
add. We're a pretty relaxed committee, obviously. And so, if you ever have projects or ideas for projects or groups that need some funding to get an environmental related project off the ground in our neighborhood, we are very open to ideas. We are very open to working with other groups and helping them out, whether they're other groups in our neighborhood, like the Chamber or the Garden Club, or other neighborhood councils or alliances like the NCSA. We cannot do this alone. We are literally 2 people, sometimes 3. So So we are happy to lend our hand to anything anyone else is working on. And if someone has an idea that they need our support for, bring it to us.
Sounds good.
All right. With that said, we are not going to be meeting in January just because of timing. So our next meeting will be on Tuesday, February 8th at 6 o'clock.
All
And
right.
with that, 6:39, we'll close the meeting. Thank you so much, Susanna. I'm so glad to have you on the committee.
Okay, well, this, I should have put on my face today, but I'm hiding.
That's all right. We were doing a lot of document work, so it's probably good. We
Yeah.
had the screen share up anyway.
Yeah, no, I look forward to working on with you, Catherine.
Thank you so much, Susanna. Have a wonderful evening.
And you too, and happy holidays if we don't talk before.
Happy holidays.